All right. Thank you, everybody. We're going to call the Administrative and Finance Committee to a meeting here. Today is Wednesday, March 4th. It is 5:31 p.m. First order of business is call to order and roll. I'm Mike Milkey. I'm here. Alder Lohendorf.
Here.
Alder Not.
Here.
And we have a bunch of others in attendance with us. Anybody online?
Yep, I will make note of everyone in attendance, but the mayor is also online.
Mayor's online.
Yes.
Yep. All right. On to item 2, consideration and action on the minutes in the previous meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Not, seconded by Alder Lohendorf. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. On to item 3, public input, limited to 3 minutes per individual. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to give public input this evening? Public input going twice for the evening. Anybody online with public input? Okay, third and final call. All right, this item is now closed. And we are going to move on a little bit out of order tonight. We're going to start with the finance section under item 16. And the first item of business tonight will be item 16, the 2026 refinancing presentation by Brad Figu. If you'd like to take the floor, it's all you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm here tonight to talk first about the next item on your agenda. You'll be considering a parameters resolution for debt that you're considering to refinance. I just want to point out that this is different than the presentation I gave at the Finance Committee meeting last month, which was related to the capital financing to fund the city's capital projects. This is a refinancing of city debt for cost savings. So I'll walk through the presentation that was included in your agenda, and then I can answer any questions. What we're really trying to accomplish with this resolution, again, it's a parameters resolution, is to tee this issue up so that should market conditions improve, the city's in a position where it can quickly access the debt market, the bond market, issue these bonds, lock in savings that would be reflected in next year's in budgets going forward. It's a reduction in total debt service cost. So to accomplish that, the parameters that's on the bottom of the summary page include a not to exceed issue size of $7 million, not to exceed interest rate of 4%. We outline the maturity schedule here. And what I'd point out on this maturity schedule is we're not extending the payments of any of these debt issues. We're simply replacing higher cost interest rates with lower interest rates to effectuate savings. And then we have the resolution provides the authority to change individual principal payments by up to $700,000 and to remove entire bond issues if they don't work, to pull them out of this transaction. Some of the savings targets that are part of the resolution. We need to have positive economic savings, positive PV savings for each of the issues, each of the bonds being refunded, and then the ability to remove callable maturities, the ability to pull individual maturities from individual bond issues if they don't increase the savings of the total issue. So what we're trying to do is provide flexibility for the city to put together the most attractive refunding bond issue and have quick access to the market.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you just clarify what PV savings are?
Sure. PV stands for present value. And then the savings. So we're taking the gross savings on a nominal basis. So compare each annual debt service before and then after. And might be, $10,000, $12,000. Add up each of those annual savings. We get a cumulative number. Let's say it's $100,000 gross savings. The PV means we'll bring that $100,000 back to as if the city received that today in one lump payment. Now, you won't receive it in a lump payment, but the present value of that is around $83,000. So present value savings is an industry standard for comparing these types of transactions across different markets. So,
Okay, thank you.
Sure. In shifting to the top of this page, the issue as it's currently detailed, this is from an interest rate scale from a few weeks ago, a bond market conditions a few weeks ago. It would have an estimated issue size of 4,725,000, and it would refund debt that was issued in 2014, 15, and 18. Now, the resolution also provides the authority to refund debt that was issued in 2017. When I prepared this analysis, that 2017 debt did not generate positive savings, but it's really close. So that's why I'm including it here, so that if we get to the point we're ready to lock in and it generates the savings, we can pull it into this transaction. And it's always more economical to maximize the number of issues you're going to refinance, as long as they're positive economic savings, rather than come back and do one as a standalone, because it helps to keep the total issuance cost per dollar refinanced lower. So the estimated rate at the time this was run was 2.80%, and that generated this PV, present value savings, of 83,158. The timetable that I included on the following page, with your authorization tonight, this would go to the council next week on the 10th. And then a little later in the year, probably beginning around May or so, we would start preparations to bring this issue to market if it works. That includes getting a bond rating, putting the official statement together, marketing the bonds to investors nationwide. And then we would lock in rates in the middle of June, probably June 15th, give or take, depending on the market conditions and competing issues in the market, economic announcements, that sort of thing. So I penciled in June 15th for a placeholder. This could then close on July 6th. July 6th is the earliest date that this can close, because one of the issues being refunded is first callable on October 1st of this year, and we can't have a refunding close more than 90 days before that first call date. So that's what the importance of that July 6th date is. If we get to, say, May, June, and this issue doesn't work, we'll just hold off, and we'll continue to monitor the market. We have really all the way up through end of year to finalize this. So if rates improve and it works, then we will lock in. But if it's working when we get to June, I would suggest we just, move immediately, get this finalized and locked up. So the detailed numbers then are included on the next two pages. The significance of the yellow highlighted principal payments, that's the principal that's eligible to be called at your option. We wouldn't call the 2026 payments because you've already budgeted for those payments. It doesn't make sense to include them as part of this transaction. You would make those principal and interest payments with funds on hand and already budgeted. On the next page, then you'll see where the debt is replaced. The principal payments from 2027 and thereafter are retired. It's replaced with a debt issue of $4,725,000. And again, this excludes that 2017 financing. And the far right-hand side then is a comparison of debt service before the refunding to debt service after the refunding. That first year of $46,000 of savings, because you've already budgeted for that payment, that's not really a savings. So I'm backing it out of the savings amount on the bottom of the page, the savings total. That $46,000 is actually being applied to reduce the principal that's being borrowed. So we're transferring that to the principal amount to reduce the overall borrowing size. And then you'll see the total gross savings is just over $101,000. And then on present value basis, that's $83,000. So wanted to make sure to bring this to your attention. If you'd like to proceed with it, we'd ask for adoption of the resolution. And again, we'll continue to monitor the market. And once this works, we would finalize rates and terms on the refunding bonds. Glad to answer questions or go into more detail if you like.
All right. I just have a quick question. So the estimated interest rate, I'm looking on page 22 in the packet. Estimated interest rate at this time would be 2.8. It could be higher, it could be lower. The highest it could go would be 4%. Is that right?
Yes, the resolution says the highest we can go is 4%, but at 4%, this wouldn't economically, it doesn't work. So there's a practical number that's something less than 4% where we would still go forward. One way to analyze that is on the bottom of the last page I went over, there's a little boxed in area. That is a sensitivity table that says, well, change in interest rates. What if rates drop 0.3% to top line? Now on the same analysis, the present value savings increase, it doubles to $164,000. if you go down 4 lines, if rates increase 0.1%, your PV savings drop to $56,000. At that point, at $56,000, this really doesn't it's better to wait than to move forward at $56,000. So from a practical standpoint, we had to put an interest rate number in, but it's going to be something less than 4%.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead,
How
Kathy.
often are we able to refinance this? I'm guessing that this is related to the recent market change
Yeah.
adjustments, right? So if they continue to decrease, let's say, are we able to in a year refinance again, or is that something we're locked in for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, you would be locked in for a certain amount of time. One of the features that would be determined at the time of pricing when everything's locked in is the call feature on the new debt. And the call feature is when you can prepay. The call feature would, at the earliest, would probably be 8 years out. So you've got an 8-year window, you can't prepay. Now, there's a cost to adding that call feature. So it may be in your interest to say, let's issue this as non-callable to maximize the savings on this issue. The city has call features on all of its other debt outstanding, so you still have flexibility with all of your other outstanding issues. In terms of the bonds that you're refunding, you can, once they're called, once you pay those off, obviously they're retired, so you can only do that once. It used to be, before tax law changes in 2017, that the city could issue refunding bonds before the call date and then put those funds in escrow. And once you get to the call date, use the escrowed funds to retire the debt. That's called an advance refunding. We can no longer do that with the tax exempt issuance. You can with taxable, but we can't with tax exempt. So the short answer is you can only current call something as often as you want, but you can't advance refund.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, no other questions. So we need a motion on this, correct?
That would be item number 17, I think.
Oh, got it. Okay. So thank you for the report for item 16. Any other questions? No? Any questions for Sabrina? Okay. All right, on to item 17, resolution 10-2026, authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $7 million general obligation refunding bonds.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Knotts, been seconded by Alder Lohendorf. Any discussion? Sabrina?
I'll just add that I will report out, or Brad would come and report out of what the rates are when we do move forward with the refunding. So I'll keep you updated.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what would the risk be? The biggest risk is if it were to rates were to drop even lower than we anticipated they could, that we lose out on some savings essentially. Is that the biggest risk with this?
Yeah, if they would drop past when we would refinance and we'd lose out on that. But yeah, there's really no harm in this resolution, because if June comes and the rates are still really high, Brad's going to call me and I'm going to say, nope, we're going to hold. So there's really no harm in approving the parameters resolution.
Awesome. All right, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. We will take a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And on to item 18 for right now, report on final interest rates for the 2026 capital improvement debt issuance. Brad?
Okay, thank you. So this is in relation to the new money issues that you authorized last month, last month, to fund your capital projects. Our plan was to have preliminary indications of interest rates yesterday, finalize those rates today, and then I was planning to be at the council meeting next week to present the final rates. The municipal bond market has been dislocated this week because of the activities in the Middle East. So we saw interest rates increase 0.05%, 5 basis points on Monday. And then yesterday, we saw interest rates increase about 0.15%, 15 basis points. So 0.2% increase over the last 2 days. The decision was made yesterday to not try to access the market today. We thought that we would be pricing into headwinds. You'd be pricing into uncertainty from investors. And when investors are uncertain, they demand higher interest rates. It's just not an ideal environment to market bonds and try to issue your debt. So today the market was steady. There were no changes in the interest rates. So they're steady at the higher levels. Buyers have come back to the market. We're seeing demand again for bonds, which we didn't see on Tuesday. So we released the preliminary of interest rates for the three issues. It's called the price talk scale. And our plan is to go into the market tomorrow morning with the order period. And that's when we'll solicit indications of interest from investors. And once we have enough orders received from investors, Baird will be able to underwrite all three of these issues. I anticipate we'll have this wrapped up around noon tomorrow, but I can provide the preliminary interest rates that we're out in the market with or we released today. Just understand these rates may change before being finalized tomorrow. If they change, I don't expect them to change by 0.2%. I mean, we're talking, we're going out 2 decimal places. We may see the change. I don't think we'd only be going out 1 decimal place. So the promissory notes, that's the $2,675,000 issue that would fund your CIP. We will be out tomorrow morning at 3.64%. For perspective, what we talked about last month was 4.04%. So it's well below what we had used for planning purposes, even with the disruption in the market earlier this week. On the water bonds, 3.85%, and that's versus 4.39%. So significantly lower interest rate there as well. And then on the storm bonds, 4.03%. Versus 4.42%. So all of these rates are much more attractive than what we use for planning purposes. We expect to be able to commit at or very near these levels for an underwriting tomorrow. In terms of total dollars, if I look at the debt service, the principal and interest payments that was used for planning purposes for all three of these issues versus where we are today, it's about $715,000 less. So that's the impact of those lower interest rates. So I'll be at them either virtually or in person next week to report out to the council the final rates.
Very nice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions for Brad?
Take it from here.
Okay. All right.
Brad.
Over to the administrative side with item number 4, and we'll come back and finish off the finance pieces later because a couple of those agenda items require us to move on admin first. So item number 4 is recruitment update from Human Resources Director Amy Franzen.
Hello, good evening. So the memo before you shows our current recruitment status of our positions. We did fill a position, our police officer position, in February. Coincidentally, it was the same week we had a retirement of a police officer. In other updates, we have a public works maintenance worker. That position has since been filled in March. Our fire administrative assistant, that one deadline's tomorrow. Our groundskeeper, this is a full-time position. We will be reviewing applications on Friday. And then next week, we will be reviewing our recreation manager applications for an upcoming retirement that we have in that department. Staff engineer, this was our newly budgeted position for 2026. That one deadline's at the end of the month. And then next month, we do have our police chief has been re-extended and re-advertised until next month. And we also have our firefighter eligibility list out there next month as well.
Okay, any questions? All right, thank you. Next is the appointment of item number 5, appointment of Nathan Raisbeck as agent for the Class A alcohol license for Woodman's Food Market, Inc. Number 24 at 9515 State Road 16 in Onalaska. I'll go ahead and move to approve.
Second.
Moved by myself, seconded by Alder Lohendorf. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 6, the appointment of Tyler Ketterhagen as agent for the Class B alcohol license for Cedar Creek Country Club LLC DBA, the golf club at Cedar Creek located at 2600 Cedar Creek Lane, Onalaska. I'll move to approve.
Second.
All right, moved by myself and seconded by Alder Mielke. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 7, ordinance 1845-2026 to amend section 13.02.68.u of Title 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Onalaska related to temporary storage units. And I will turn this over to Katie.
Thank you, Chair. Is that better?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. So included in your packet is a memo that addresses all of the ordinance that are before you tonight related to temporary storage units. So I'm going to go through that. And then if there's any individual questions on the first one, we'll just go ordinance by ordinance. So essentially, the purpose for what you see tonight is that the planning department completed a comprehensive review of all non-residential parcel properties within the city to see if we had compliance with our ordinance that strictly prohibited the use of shipping containers and storage pods for temporary and permanent storage purposes. In early of this year, the city began doing enforcement to have any and all shipping containers that were found removed from properties. And as part of the enforcement process, city staff sought to improve the clarity in our UDC, specifically governing the use of such containers in our community. So there are red line ordinance amendments. There are a variety of them because we address uses on a temporary basis. We address them on a permanent basis. And in some instances, we have them in the building code where it's more appropriate for this particular topic to appear in multiple locations, which is why you have so many ordinances before you this evening. So the first is brand new information related to the temporary storage as a permitted accessory use. And then there are standards that are associated with it. So in general, it's allowing the temporary use of these types of containers in certain zoning districts with certain regulations, such as time limitations, obtaining permits, where they can be placed, how they have to appear, they have to be appropriately maintained, allows the city to do inspection, and specifically details out what cannot be stored in them, such as flammable items. This new use would require 2 ordinance amendment, one creating the use in the accessory uses table, and then the other with the ordinance requirements themselves. The second pertains to accessory dwelling units. This is language specifically prohibiting the use of temporary storage units from being lived in as an accessory dwelling unit themselves or in the construction of an accessory dwelling unit. The third relates specifically to accessory structures as a whole. This prohibits the use of temporary storage units as a permitted accessory structure, or again, in the construction of an accessory structure within our code. Moving on to our building code. This one is related to commercial buildings. It prohibits the use of these units from being used in the construction, alteration, reconstruction, or addition of a commercial building. And then the number 5 relates the same to in the building of a new residential dwelling unit, that you couldn't use such for in the construction, alteration, reconstruction of a 1-family or 2-family. Anything that is beyond a 2-family is considered commercial in the building code. And then lastly, for temporary tents, canopies, carports, or similar membrane structures, this language is not new. The proposed amendments are just clarifying what zoning district that you can do this in. The regulations themselves have not changed. And by adding in temporary storage unit, it renumbered the section so it went from U to V. Are the primary changes. So I am happy to answer any questions that you might have related to the first ordinance on the agenda this evening. Thank you.
Okay, I'll move to approve.
Second.
All right, move to approve by myself, seconded by Alder Lohendorf. I do have a concern that may require an amendment. And it has to do specifically for the R1, R2, R3, and R4 residential areas, as well as residences in the mixed use neighborhood as well, and mixed use community. I absolutely support this as far as using them as storage, if you will, for classic storage. I have a concern with moving pods, meaning that they're specific to, I mean, you could use a moving pod for storage. I got it. I got no problem with that. But if it's a moving pod because you have somebody moving out of a residence and that's why they have it, or they're moving into a residence, I do have a concern with that. Because I'm thinking what, these will set up the conditions for some pretty negative first experiences to Welcome to Alaska. A new resident coming in from outside our community would very likely not even know about this. And their first time they're going to find out is when a code enforcement person or a law enforcement person shows up and say, hey, do you have your permit? What do you mean? Well, Welcome to Alaska, go pay. And I don't want that. If it is specific for just moving as opposed for storage, and we would know, it's a couple of questions would answer that. I don't think we should be paying people to move in and out of or having people have to pay us to move in and out of the city. That's my view. I'm open for comment back. Prove me wrong. Yeah, go ahead.
So the reason that this is in there, and just note that it's specific to parcels that are zoned R1 and R2. And then there are many single and two family residences throughout our community that happen to be zoned a different district. So that's where the R3, R4, and the mixed use neighborhood and mixed use community. So if you happen to be a commercial business in the mixed use community, this does not apply to you. This is only calling out if you happen to have a single or two family, regardless of what your zoning district is, just for clarity's sake.
Okay.
The purpose of having this is we have many people who do call and ask, I'm moving to your community. Can I do this? It's a very common question that we have. The problem that staff has is that we don't have a good answer for them. Can you do that? Maybe. The ordinance isn't clear. The ordinance doesn't specifically state whether or not you can do something. So if the ordinance does not spell it out, the default answer is no, you cannot do this because the ordinance doesn't let you do it. If the ordinance is silent, it is prohibited. So by calling it out and saying, yes, you can have them, you can do it in 160 square feet, you can have it up to 60 days. In this instance, we're requiring a permit for it. If it's your ability where you're saying we want this, because we also have people, not just for temporary storage units, but we will have people that get dumpsters and they let their dumpsters sit for months on their property. And people try to say, how do you prohibit this? It's not specifically laid out in the code. So if we have regulations that state you can do this on a temporary basis up to 60 days in a calendar year, we're knowing that you're coming in, you can have one, then I can go back and say, okay, you came in on March 1st, your pod was delivered, 60 days have gone by, we follow up. Did you remove it? Did you not remove it? So it's not just necessarily someone coming into our community, it's also the potential impact that someone can have on a neighborhood. And we get a lot of calls related to that.
Yeah.
So if there is the want to regulate it but not require a permit, that's a possibility. But the more intent is to have something for staff to stand on. And then it's also an education piece that people have for citizens either moving in or moving throughout the city. So it's a very common question for people to call and ask.
Well, I guess I don't disagree with any of that when it comes to dumpsters or as a storage. Example would be somebody decides they're, for all of winter, they're going to have one of these parked out in their driveway so they can store their lawn care products or something like that. I have no problem with this. My problem is with somebody moving in or moving out. I don't know why we'd make them pay for that privilege. I mean, I personally have moved 14 times in my life. I've never had to pay for the privilege to move in or out of any community I've lived in. And yes, I've lived on the economy for most of those. I know you all know my military background. I've only lived on military housing 3 times, or maybe I think it's 3 times out of all those moves. The rest have all been local community. I've never had to pay to move in and out. It's just, I get my schedule with the contractor and we move out and then we move in. And I don't want that first experience, especially for people moving in, to be, hey, You got a permit for that? I mean, I'm just moving in my house. Well, you need to stop until you go pay your permit fee. To me, that is just wrong. So, yeah. So, I mean, I'm not at all the other issues you mentioned, totally agree with you. You know, because and I think most of the neighbors in most communities would agree with it as well. They don't want to have a dumpster sitting in somebody's yard for 60 days. So, but I don't know. I mean, what do the other alders think?
Oh, go ahead.
Does this apply to dumpsters in its current state, or are we looking to apply something for dumpsters as well? Because I'm just reading this as storage units.
This is not, I was using dumpsters as an example.
I thought so.
But this is just for temporary storage units or the pods. So like if you used a U-Haul that was on wheels and you got permission from the police department to park it in the street for the 3 days or for your move if you couldn't fit on your driveway, this does not pertain to you. This only pertains if you're using those temporary storage shipping containers or the pods themselves.
Well, I'm confused. So you're saying it would not apply if they just parked it in the street while they unloaded while they were moving in?
If you pull in on a U-Haul and it's on wheels and you
Oh.
drive to your location, you wouldn't get a permit for that because it's a vehicle. This is one of those pods
Yeah.
that
I know it, yeah.
right, they order and they sit, there's no tongue on them. They just drop them off at the location. And this is stating that you can't put it in the street, that you have to put it on private
I agree
property
with that.
and that you would get a permit for it. That's
don't
the,
agree.
the piece. So.
Yeah, I agree with not having it on the street. I just don't agree with somebody for the purpose of moving in or out of their property to have to pay a fee to have that privilege of moving in and out of a house. That's where I have an issue, personally. I mean, I'm only one vote, but, yeah,
Is there a way that that could be, I guess, include, like if you were to do amendment or,
yeah, I have to figure out
I
how.
mean, is there, it feels like, is there like a gray area then
Mhm.
if this goes in?
Can we ask how much the fee is?
No. So that is addressed under finance with the fee schedule.
It's number 21. It's page 75, exhibit 21.
Thank you.
So it's,
I believe
I
it's,
believe 50 for residential.
I think it's 50. I just wanted to verify before I gave you incorrect information. So yes, $50 is what the permit fee would be if you chose to do that.
I mean, I understand your point, Stephen.
Yeah.
I mean, I can totally understand. And I understand the point of having this as well.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if, I guess if, is there a way to compromise and include that where the language somehow states that it's not related to moving? I don't know how you
I would
decipher the difference.
Well, I would say if it's used for the purpose of moving into or out of a residence, so long as it is on private property, you have a 20-day grace period or something of that nature. I mean, most people are going to have that thing unloaded because they're paying for it, you know. It wouldn't be very long. I've never used pods, but I've had family members are, and it's becoming more and more popular. I know that. So we could figure out whatever, I mean, after we discuss it, what a reasonable amount of grace period would be for people that are using it specific for the purpose of moving into or out of their personal residence.
Yeah.
They would have a certain amount of grace period that this does not apply.
So, and if they were to go, like if they have a pod and they come in and all of a sudden it's there for 25 days, then they would have to come get a permit.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, in the case of the 20 is what I threw out there. I'm just throwing stuff out. Yeah. Sabrina.
I just have a question. How would you police that, Katie, if they don't apply for a permit? How do you know if it's been 20 days that it's been sitting there?
Right. So that's typically like with anything that it's tied to a time frame. So if you move in and someone's out doing property maintenance and we happen to see one, that's the day that our counter begins.
Mhm.
Because that's the day that we can verify that you've had it. So it's entirely possible that you have a person that could have had one there for 2 months and we just haven't driven by. And now you have neighbors that are starting to call us and they say, hey, this has been sitting here for 2 months. Why haven't you done anything about it? And we're like, well, we didn't necessarily know it was there. So now if we put in this time frame, because we can't also to be fair, totally trust that that person says it's been there for 2 months. If it's really been there for 2 months, there's been there for 2 days and they don't like their neighbor, right? So we have to assume that based on the day that we document that we see something, the time starts.
Yeah.
So again, this is saying that you can have one for up to 60 days.
With a permit.
It comes down to, I think the bigger question before you this evening is whether or not you want to permit it. So you could say no permit. So typically in my research into these pods, they're usually on a 30-day basis that you rent them for. They're not like almost everyone I was able to find where they're in 30-day increments because people do it on the month. They do them and then they ship them. And whether you use them for 15 days of that 30 or all 30 days, that's the typical time frame that I've been able to find for pods.
We could also, in order to meet the intent, consider having an amendment to where they must pay for a fee. However, if it's gone within, again, I'm just throwing out 20 days, I don't know what the right answer is, they can get a refund. But if it's beyond that, that's permitted, now you got it. I don't know. I still have I'm trying to figure out a way to do this to where somebody who's moving in and out versus somebody who's got a dumpster is using it for storage.
Yeah.
It's totally two different animals here. And I'm trying to figure out how to separate them out.
My thought would be is that having them pay upfront and do a refund, that's some additional transactions that the city would have to do. So maybe that's not the best option to do. Is that really the only thing that is used for is for moving purposes? Essentially?
We would assume that they would only be used for moving purposes, but people do all kinds of things, which is why we specifically called out in the other code sections that you can't use them for accessory structures, which is people using them for storage.
Yeah.
People get creative
Yeah.
all the time. They need to store something inside and they don't have room in their garage and they don't want to rent a mini warehouse. So maybe they put a pod in front of their house because they just need to cover it for 2 months.
Yeah, so
So-
pods can be, depending on the community and what the economy of that local community is like, pods can be cheaper than storage. And then it is very common throughout the entire United States that there's a shortage of storage. So people could be saying, well, again, the example I used is I got to put my lawnmower, my weed whacker and all this stuff in somewhere over the winter. I'll just rent a pod.
Sure.
And then they stick it in their driveway and I would not be for that. Am I being clear? The only concern I have is somebody who's trying to just move in and out of their residence.
Sure.
And they already have moving expenses already. And we're going to hit them up for $50 more just for the privilege to move into Onalaska or to leave our city. And I just don't agree with that.
I just have concerns in terms of trying to enforce it,
Uh-huh.
to parse it out. Is it storage or is it not? So
If-
I would encourage, instead of trying to separate those two, because it's very easy for someone to be like, oh yeah, I just moved in. It's fine. It's for moving, right? To either you charge the fee or you don't. It would be
Well,
one or the other.
I honestly think it woun't be that hard because you already alluded to it. I think the neighbors would be self-policing a lot of this is why is this here for 60 days?
Right, but again, the time would start over upon seeing it. So in theory, if they have it there for 60 days and we come in day 59, now they have another 60 days in order to do that.
Got
So
it.
you've just extended it out. So that's kind of the
But that wouldn't apply to dumpsters.
days appropriate. Is that a question to the board? Should it be 30 days? We are trying to be generous and allow people that are moving, if they're moving or if they're needing to store something, is that too much?
I have no problem going to 30 days on this so long as we have an exemption for people moving in and out of a residence with a moving pod. I think dumpsters flat out just need a fee. So, yeah. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, when in your research, Katie, are like neighboring communities or other communities of our size doing this that you saw in your research? And are we aligning? I'm guessing I'm thinking is La Crosse charging something like this? Obviously, we're not as big as them, but is that something that they're also doing? And, that we've kind of aligned our numbers with what we've seen with other municipalities.
So I used eCode 360, which is where our ordinances live. And as one of the perks of using that software is we have the ability to search statewide, nationwide. So I was running a search specifically on Wisconsin cities. and how they regulate it, of varying sizes. So not looking at counties or townships, but more specifically municipalities. La Crosse is not in that system. I do not know if they charge for this.
Okay.
Well, then,
I guess I have a second.
Oh, go ahead. I'm
question, if I
sorry.
may. What if would council consider, I actually like the idea of, even if you're just moving, having a permit for it, for the simple fact that it makes it easier on city workers. It does set that clock for us. What if we looked at like a fee reduction? Instead of $50, it's like 25 or something like that?
how about if we go with changing it down to 30 days and to where we say comma, or excuse me, period. And then we say the fee will be waived, but the permit is still required if the pod is being used exclusively to move in or out of a residence.
How do we verify if they're moving in or out?
I mean, I just don't think it's that hard. I mean, you can tell what's being used for storage or, I mean, very few people would, I think, be storing clothing, pots and pans, things of that nature out in a
There are
pod.
people that live in these things.
Yeah, well, I understand
I'm
that.
just
I
saying
read that
like,
too.
That's why we have
Yeah.
to have that language in there.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the only
sure.
concern.
But, yeah, but it's only for 30 days anyway. Beyond that, they're going to have to. Actually, they're not allowed to have a period after 30 days. So I don't know that it would be that hard. I just, I think I'd be smart enough to tell, it's like, dude, you're using this for storage. I mean, and then the people are saying he's putting his lawnmower in and out and he's picking, all the, I mean, you'd have, most neighborhoods have at least one who's keeping track of what's going on in the neighborhood. So, and that's the one who's going to probably make the call too. So, yeah. Larry, yeah, so Larry Jurassic is here. So go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. The only question I have on it, two actually, is there any way that we can put in the ordinance that we will notify the shipping companies that would actually be moving these pods to notify the people that this is the situation that it is?
I don't know that the shipping companies would have anything to do with our ordinances. They're gonna be like, yeah, that's you. We got other
Well,
things. to
I
worry
mean, you
about."
were concerned about somebody moving into
Yeah.
the county that didn't know anything about it. Well, how are they gonna find out about it if they,
Well, that's a concern I have too. Yeah.
if they notify them just on the documents that they sign for the contract for the pod that, you need to get this, this, and this at this time?
I don't think that the companies would do that. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I imagine those contracts say it's up to the renter to review any ordinances.
But in this case, it would be the visit from whoever's enforcing that ordinance to say, hey, I see you got a pod. I don't have you on record as having a permit. You need to get one. I'm just moving in my house. Still need to get a permit, but we'll waive the fee if you're moving into your residence. All right. But you must go down and get a permit. And that way they know they got 30 days. And it's now the clock is now ticking. Now they know. All right. So
Several months ago when this first came up, I was approached on it and asked about people living in the pods. I said, well, you can't do it. You can't do
No.
it here. You can't do it in La Crosse. He says, what's the situation as far as if I want to build a bomb shelter? Is that covered under this and the way the situation of the world
Oh.
is today?
I don't know if that would be part of this ordinance at all. That'd be covered probably under something entirely different, I would think.
So I don't know if that covers. He asked me the question. I said, I don't have any idea.
This is a temporary storage unit. I don't think a bomb shelter would be a temporary storage unit because you'd have to remove it.
Well, I mean,
That would be
I
a
don't think it's on
permitting
the agenda
process.
tonight, Larry. That would be
Yeah.
a discussion that
Yeah.
would need to be referenced in an
Yeah.
agenda, and it's not in tonight's agenda.
okay.
Discussing bomb shelters would have to be
All right.
listed in agendas.
And it may be that we have to do a little bit of trust on this, but the bottom line is we're meeting the intent that that this is not something they can keep on a long-term basis on their property, regardless of what it is. But dumpsters are, I mean, you can tell a dumpster difference from a pod anyway. So I'm just thinking that, I'll make a recommendation here. I'm going to move to amend that it reads allowed per parcel for up to 30 days in a calendar year. And then less than 160 square feet, just as it is there. And then having the next sentence say, the fee will be waived, but the permit is still required if being used for moving into or out of a personal residence. That's my amendment. All right, guess it's going to die.
Second.
All right. I mean, that's fine. Yeah. All right.
I have one other comment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sure. We're back to discussion again anyway.
I was just gonna say, if we're gonna put some kind of an asterisk that if you're moving, we also need to provide city employees with some kind of way of validating that. So like we need to tell them like either they're bringing in a lease or they're bringing closing papers for their new home. Because they'll have to be able to verify and document why they're waiving that fee.
That makes sense.
So I would just recommend that, as Amanda can't be here this evening, that I could work with her to try and come up with some language for the council meeting. I assume this would be on the non-consent agenda, to address the concerns related to moving in and out and any verification, that we try to come up with something in the meantime to address that concern.
So no, that's, yeah, I'll do a move to table here in a second then, or
Or if that was your intent with your ordinance amendment?
yeah, sure. If you think it's better that, I mean, I absolutely believe the staff can come up with better verbiage than I do. So that's all right. So I got no problem with that. But consider what Kathy just said too. I don't know if it's feasible or not. Just talk to the staff about maybe they have to come in and show demonstrate that here's a lease that's new. Here's my construction or my sale of my home that's new. If that's something feasible, I think that, it makes sense to me. It might not make sense to the staff. So, I think we're all pretty flexible on this as long as the intent is made. So, okay. So, can I move to table even though we haven't voted on any of these things?
If you would want to withdraw your original motions and seconds,
I'll-
then we could just,
I'll withdraw my motions if you all remove your seconds.
Remove second.
Who moved who moved on the second, who seconded the first?
on the original motion, it was, the original motion was Alder Knott and the second was Alder Lohendorf, the amendment.
Okay, so it was both of us on both. Okay, so those are removed then. And I'll move to table this until next week.
How about just refer to staff?
I'll refer, okay,
bring-
all right, I'll move to refer to staff and then we'll discuss next week at the Common Council.
We'll put it on the non-consent agenda.
Okay.
Mhm.
So do I need a second on? Okay. Move to refer to next week, seconded by Mike Milk. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Next is item 8, ordinance 1846-2026 to amend section 13.02.68.V5 of Title 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Onalaska. No, that's not 5. That is a V. I see that. Okay. So it's 13.02.68.V as in Victor of Title 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Onalaska related to temporary tent, canopy, carport, or similar membrane material structures. And I will move to approve.
Yeah.
All right, move to approve by myself, seconded by Alder Lohendorf. Any discussion? I mean, this looks like it's mostly a bunch of happy glads and cleaning up the ordinance, so. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. So we are now on to item 9, ordinance 1847-2026 to amend section 13.02.68.B.2 of Title 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Onalaska related to accessory structures. And I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by myself to approve, seconded by Alder Lohendorf to second. Or let's see, I don't know, does anyone need any discussion on this? It's one sentence, yeah. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 10, ordinance 1848-2026 to amend section 13.02.68.A.1 of Title 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Onalaska relates to accessory dwelling units. I'll move to approve.
Second.
A motion to approve by myself, seconded by Alder Milkey. Again, it looks like it is a one-sentence ad. Does anyone have any questions on this? Right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 11, ordinance 1849-2026 to amend section 13.02.22-2 of Title 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Onalaska related to accessory uses table, temporary tents. And this one I may actually turn over to you, Katie, just for a little clarification. I'm trying to read what this, I'm seeing all the PSs in black and one in red, and I'm trying to figure out what they mean. So,
Thank you, Chair. So PS stands for permitted with standards. So that's where you have to follow the rules that we just laid out. The reds are showing where it is not allowed to do that use. So this is matching what the ordinance said with the districts. So this is just cleaning up the code.
the red is to show where it is not allowed, but it still is
Yes.
PS for permitted with standards.
Yes, so this is basically saying in the RMMH, B3, MC, I1, I2, A1, you are not allowed to do that in those districts.
So then
That was an error when it was originally went in, and this is fixing that error. So now it matches what the language states in the ordinance itself.
but it still says PS. It's just a different.
It's a strike through in red.
Strike through.
That's saying the red means no. It's hard to see. There's a little.
Okay. That explains it all. If there's a strike through there, I cannot see that, but that's okay. I was really confused. All right, got it. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor? Aye.
We need a motion and a second on the floor for that one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, we already, no, I thought we already had it, didn't we?
I believe you already did. I think so.
Yeah, I was myself and Milky.
Then you turned it over to Katie.
Yeah, I think it was myself and Alder Milky who did that. All right, so all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item number 11, which is ordinance 1849-2026 to amend section 13.02.22-2 of Title 13 of the code. Or is that the one we just did?
Yeah, that's what you just did.
All right, I just didn't strike through. Item number 12, ordinance 1850-2026 to amend section 13.02.22-2 of Title 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Onalaska related to accessory uses table temporary storage units. I'll move to approve.
Second.
Move to approve by myself, seconded by Alder Lohendorf. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 13, ordinance 1851-2026 to amend section 15.01.12.A.1 of Title 15 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Onalaska related to residential buildings. I'll move to approve.
Second.
Move to approve by myself, seconded by Alder Lohendorf. Again, it's just one sentence. Is there any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 15. 14, to amend section 15 for ordinance 1852-2026 to amend section 15.01.13.B of Title 15 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Onalaska related to commercial buildings. I'll move to approve.
Second.
Move to approve by myself, seconded by Alder Milky. Again, only one sentence of difference. Is there any questions or concerns? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 15, ordinance 1853-2026 to amend section 2.02.33 of Title II of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Onalaska related to open meetings. I'll move to approve.
Second.
Move to approve by myself, seconded by Alder Milky. I'll go ahead and turn this one over for some explanation of what the changes are, because there's actually quite a bit. We'll just get it in the minutes.
I can
Yes,
help
go
with-
ahead.
I can help with that one. So when Amanda had been at a meeting or a conference with some other attorneys, there was some conversation about closed sessions. And what she learned was that there were a number of municipalities that actually have closed session ordinances. And what she also learned was that without an ordinance, information that is talked about in a closed session, it is expected to be confidential, but is not required to be confidential. And that was news to me as well. I had not heard that. It was my understanding that closed session, just generally speaking, that there was that requirement. So she did get a sample ordinance from some other communities, and this is essentially what she utilized to put together. So really, at the end of the day, when we have closed sessions, I mean, again, it is required that we have that information confidential. So in order to make that kind of have more teeth to it, so to speak, this ordinance was created and being moved forward.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Mike, we're back to you on item 19.
All right, thank you, Stephen. On to the Finance Committee again here, item 19, 2026 General Fund Financials. I'll hand this one over to Sabrina.
Thank you. So in your packets tonight, starting on page 55 is the general fund financials. We're 1 month through the year, so I don't really have a lot to report out on. On page 56 shows our year-to-date revenues. We have 96.77% remaining to hit our total budgeted goal. Again, exactly what I would expect being through the first month. Last year on January 31st of 2025, we were at 97.35%. So we're actually a little ahead of where we were last year. But again, nothing I'm concerned with at this time. Then following further on to get to our total expenditures, if you can take a look at page, I believe it's 69. Page 69 gives us our total expenditures through January 31st of 2026. We have 92.73% remaining of our total budgeted expenditures. As of January 31st of 2025, we were at 93.38%, so very close to where we were at in 2025. Then behind the revenue and expenditure report is our balance sheet for our general fund. Otherwise, I don't really have anything else to report out, but I will take any questions.
Thank you, Sabrina. Any questions? I will move to approve the 2026 General Fund Financials.
Second.
Motion by myself, Alder Milky. It's been seconded by Alder Lohendorf. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. On to item 20, 2026 Omni Center Financials, and I'll pass it over to Sabrina again.
Thank you, Chair. So next in your packet on page 72 is the Omni Center Revenue and Expenditure Report. On page 72, you can see our total percentage remaining through January 31st of 2026 is 88.11%. As of January 31st of 2025, we were at 89.82%. So again, trending ahead of where we were at in January of 2025. Then on page 73, we'll show our expenditures. Our expenditures through January 31st of 2026, we have 93.45% remaining. As of January 31st of 2025, we had 94.02% remaining. So again, very close to where we were at in 2025. Then on page 74 is our balance sheet for the Omni Center. And the only other thing I would note is in like a little over a week, we have our financial statement audit. So they'll be taking a look at both the general fund financials as well as the Omni Center financials.
All right. Thank you, Sabrina. I will move to approve the 2026 Omni Center Financials and place on file.
Second.
Motion by Alder Milky, and second by Alder Lohendorf. Any discussion on the 2026 Omni Center? Not seen any. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. On to item 21.
Be referred to.
What's that?
This goes directly with what we just
Oh.
referred, so we'll just have to refer this to.
Okay. Do we want to talk about this fees, the numbers at all now, or just table it until?
I think it makes sense to move it forward based on the conversation that's going to occur between planning and legal,
Okay.
because this will be impacted by it. Again, unless you want to have some conversation tonight, but I think it does make some sense because there may need to be some changes based on if there is any kind of an exemption.
Okay, so do we just want to table item 21?
Again, that'd be my
For
thoughts.
staff?
It is completely up to the committee members what you want to do, but it would make sense being that there may very well be some changes to it.
Okay.
I'll move to refer until next week at the common council meeting.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Alder Knott to refer to the 2026 fee schedule to the meeting next week for council. It's been seconded by Kathy Lowendoff. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 22, this is to amend schedule of deposits. And we can talk about this one, right?
I believe so.
I'll pass over to Rick for right now. Do you want to take this one?
Oh, and I can just indicate that this is the, so the closed session portion that you approved, this is that forfeiture that would be applicable to that one. So that is added into the scheduled deposits. And then the other portion are the temporary storage units, which again, I think those, I don't remember if one of those was applicable to the one you move forward. To go back and look.
So this needs to be referred to.
Well, I don't remember if it's applicable to the one that you moved forward, and so that's why I want to double check. I don't have that section memorized.
Mike.
Oh, Katie Aspenson.
So this would just be for failure to follow the regulations
Okay.
for what the fee amount would be. So this is neither here nor there. If you choose to have a permit for it or not, it's whether or not you would refuse to take it away after 60 days, or it would be for commercial. So it's just if you don't follow the regulations, this is what the fine would be.
Okay.
So this
So-
isn't contingent like the other ones are.
I'll move to approve.
All right, all right, we have a motion by Alder Knott to approve, seconded by Alder Lowendoff for the amending the schedule of deposits. Any discussion, sorry? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. On to item 23, adjournment.
Adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Alder Lowendoff, been seconded by Alder Knott to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously, and we are adjourned at 6:33 PM. Thank you, everybody.